about to get started, but before we do, I wanted to give everyone a brief overview on InfinIT Consulting and some exciting things that have happened for us this year. InfinIT Consulting is a leading managed services provider with in-house custom solutions like our dynamic custom cloud called IDNA and our turnkey managed services, which we call CompleteKit. This year, InfinIT was selected as Microsoft's #1 West Region Cloud Partner concerning all things cloud. We were ranked again in the 1% for SMB for cloud in the world. And Ingram Micro listed us as their top 500 partner. We continue to specialize in peace of mind for our clients. All right, let's hand things over to Daryl at SP Marketplace and see what his team has to offer. Daryl?
Thank you. SP Marketplace is an application vendor of business-driven applications. And we use a unique, rapid application development approach that provides easy-to-use, yet very full-featured applications that takes advantage of the Office 365 and SharePoint Online. Our first application was released in 2012, and since then, we've added over 200 organizations that use our applications. Everything from small business to enterprise, however, they very well fit small to medium businesses, and businesses like Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, Edison, and others are some of those that are using our applications. We are a Microsoft ISV partner with a very experienced team with over 30 years each, in the founders in the software industry and founders of companies such as Veritas Software, Vignette, and others. What we're really doing here is taking a new component-based approach to business solutions that is not programmer so much driven, but the ability for business users and power business users to control and provide applications that fit their business. So many of you may already be using Office 365, and obviously it's an amazing model to be able to run your business, do your email, all your Office capabilities, even use things like Lync, like we're using here, to automate your Office. What we do is we actually leverage the SharePoint area of the Office 365 offering to provide and take that to the next level beyond simple document management to actual business process management and providing portals for communication. So if we kind of step back and look at how many of you may have put in Office 365 or the reasons why, a lot of it was probably for basic business automation or office automation, getting your email server out of your offices, putting that into the cloud, taking some of the Office capabilities on Microsoft Office and putting that into the cloud. So moving that to a level up where it is much easier to manage and is much more available to your organization. The next level that we usually see is team collaboration, and that's maybe where, again, you're using Lync, but also that's where SharePoint starts to come into play, and that's your site, and you may have a team site where you're sharing documents or tracking calendars or tasks that also may be linked in with your Outlook. And that's usually, though, where we see it stop. And we actually call that the first phase of business value of Office 365. There is another level that actually can bring very high value to your organization. And that's what we call business process automation. Actually bringing in and automating some of your business processes in the cloud on the platform. And what we see is this really ramps up the value of the deployment. Now, if we kind of step back and say, well, what do we mean by this? Well, if we look at many organizations, especially fast-growing ones, small to medium organizations, what we see is they've grown organically. And even as our company and InfinIT and so on, who are both small organizations as well, we see that we've had to manage all the basic things: email, calendars, tasks, communications, and documents. We've also had to go in and start doing things like business processes, like expense reports and purchases. And a lot of times these are either on paper forms or Excel spreadsheets, sent via email, and so on. You might even have bought individual applications for things like a CRM or lead management, or even things around HR like hiring and individual applications there. And what kind of results from that is then your users have to sign into different applications, have different user interfaces, and this is what we call organic growth within an organization of your IT. The problem is, after a while, it may look like this. Now, if you have a question on whether your organization is at this point, go look at some of your users' screens. If they look like this, you may be at that point. That's a potential chaos situation there. So what we do is we take the opportunity of the Office 365 platform and all its components to kind of step back and take a different approach to things. And that is to provide a portal to many of the different services and collaboration things that your employees need to use to get their job done daily. We actually take and layer on top of that another capability with SP Business Suite. This suite comes with an intranet portal as well as multiple application modules that allows your employees to go in through a single point and access different information. And they can do that whether they're at work, with the customer, or traveling, because it's all supporting with SharePoint and the Office 365 platform, both tablets, smartphones, and Macs, PCs, and whatever they're on. So this approach allows them to not spend time chasing down people to ask questions or to get the latest policies or the latest forms. They can go through and get everything at a central point. So what this really does is, if you kind of step back, and this, if you're a 365 user, this may look fairly familiar. Typically, if you go to sites here, this is what you might find, and maybe your team has actually built some basic team sites here. This is nice, but it doesn't provide a lot of context to your business. It really is maybe replacing file shares for you and providing another place to do that. What we do is actually take a different approach, and out of the box, we convert SharePoint into a full set of intranet portals for your employees to use, along with different departments supporting portals as well. And we'll be taking a look at this live today. So what is SP Business Suite? Well, it's a suite of applications, and the analogy that we use is it's very much almost like what Microsoft Office does for office automation, SP Business Suite does for core business automation. And we start with an intranet portal, and that's delivered out of the box so that you can immediately have something that comes up for your employees that they can go to and get the latest news, collaborate, and that type of thing, as well as access services. There's an employee self-service section of the Business Suite, as well as department portals. The Business Suite, very much like Microsoft Office, can be purchased as an entire suite, or you can purchase components. And when the components are part of the suite, they actually work together to provide the different sharing of information between here. So for instance, an employee could go in here and request a service from HR, maybe to update their benefits or suggested immigration paper upgrades or renewals. And they can submit that here, and it will go to HR, and HR can assign it, track it, and it will keep communication with the employee. They don't have to go into a separate application. They don't have to call HR. It is done automatically through the self-service. The blue boxes here are actually full-blown applications. So if you already have an intranet portal, but you need, for instance, an IT help desk or an HR set of applications for things like hiring, performance reviews, and keeping track of employee information, you can just purchase these pieces as well. And use those as individual applications on your SharePoint environment. But all in all, what this does is it moves you from kind of everything being everywhere to Office 365 being a business portal for your employees. So let's just take one step lower in here and take a look at what this means, and we'll get into actually seeing it live in just a minute here. What it means is that you can keep track of employees, vendors, accounts, contacts, and that type of thing, and everything that is related to them. So if you're looking at keeping track of employee information, you can see all documents related to that employee, all calendars, tasks, and projects. Obviously, there needs to be security, so there's security built in at all levels of the applications. And also, you can go in and create different views for different people. That's very much role-based. And that's part of that is really enabled by the base functionality of what SharePoint provides, and we're applying business context on top of it. So let's step one more step lower and describe what these things really are. Well, from a kind of technical perspective, what you can use these out of the box as a turnkey business solution, or you can use them as an application template. And the reason is because we've built these applications on top of standard SharePoint and the standard SharePoint browser. And that means a number of things. Number one, we support all editions of SharePoint. And in fact, the really neat thing about it is if you were on 2010 SharePoint or 2010 Office and Microsoft moved you to 2013, our applications move seamlessly with it. So you could be on 10 on Friday, and on Monday, if you come up on 13, the applications still work in that environment. The other really important thing, and this is what's really different, these applications are 100% customizable without programming. That means a business user can go in and add fields, change the forms, change dashboards and views without ever getting into programming, not even into SharePoint Designer. They can do it through the SharePoint user interface. And what that means is you can have somebody in your organization, if they want to be the application administrator for these, get minimal SharePoint training, literally about 3 to 4 hours of SharePoint training, and they can go in and manage and change these applications. And again, we've already talked about their seamless integration, access from computers, tablets, and smartphones. And what you'll find too is they're fairly easy to use because it's a common interface. It's the Microsoft Office looking interface with ribbons and so on that these applications use. So, and one more point here before we go into seeing what these applications use is that you don't have to deploy it just as a plain SharePoint site. You can put together the application set that you need. You can select a look and feel. We also have SharePoint skin templates that you can add your colors, your logo, and so on to make it something that your organization will be comfortable using. As well as you can add different web parts. And there's hundreds of web parts out here that you can use, anything from weather to polls to maps and so on. And what that means is that not only do you get the applications to automate your business, but you can actually have them to be in the exact look and feel and functionality that you need without spending thousands and thousands and thousands on customization consulting. So with this, what I'm going to do is let's go in and see the applications live. This is what our product looks like out of the box. So what we see here is that we have a corporate intranet, and this is what the employee comes into when they press this site icon, or the site selection here. So rather just into a kind of non-branded SharePoint site, they come into something that's comfortable to them. They can come in and see automatically any company announcements. They can link to any services like, maybe you use ADP payroll or paychecks or something like that. They could go out to that. They could go to their email or an ERP application or any link that you want. They can see latest industry news. This is an RSS feed, for instance, and this happens to be from Inc. You can link this to anything you want. There are web parts here, world office times, weekly polls. It even links into social networks like Twitter. And again, this is what it looks like out of the box, but you can change and add anything that you want here. Now, what we also do is make sure that we don't make it too complex. One of the big mistakes we see with intranets is too much information on the front page, everything from announcements to who's the latest birthday. What we do, though, is we found in the over 200 organizations we've done this in, is that it's better to have places they can drill down into. So, for instance, on the left-hand side, you can add things like perhaps you have a number of offices. You can go in and take advantage of SharePoint to track, where those offices are. You can even use SharePoint's filtering capability. Let's say I'm going on a trip to visit our California offices, and I can even map those offices. So what this does, it allows you to take advantage of a lot of the web capabilities right within the applications. I could go in and look at what are the latest company events on an event calendar, or show me who's on leave from our organization with a leave calendar. There's frequently asked questions already built into this, and this hopefully will limit the amount of times that people are tracking down, for instance, HR or another organization to ask questions that they probably have to answer over and over again. You can even make available policies and procedures for employees to access, or forms as well. And the nice thing about it is, again, this is 100% customizable. So if you wanted to have some other document library, say with safety procedures or something like that, it could show up here. There's a lot of collaboration capabilities here too. So a CEO blog, or this could be, a marketing blog or something like that, where you can make available the latest articles on your business. There's a company forum built in where employees can have different discussions. It even integrates with things like HR, which has job requisition processing over in this site, in the job openings area. So when a requisition gets approved, HR can publish it to the intranet portal. So what we see here is a place that an employee can go to access a number of things, and obviously most of this has been kind of news and collaboration related. But another part of this is actually going to the more active services area. So, for instance, we have an employee directory that's built from your SharePoint user profiles automatically. And you can go in and search for employees, or you can see what employees are at a certain location, for instance, this office. And then I can even connect with the employees on LinkedIn straight from this and talk with them. So it's an easy way to see what employees are out there, even look for skills and that type of thing out there. There's also something that is called our employee services portal. And this is where employees can go to actually access different services in the organization. So for instance, if you have timesheets, this actually links to a timesheet here, time off, HR request or HR help desk request. IT cases, you could have a marketing request. If you have expenses, we have a way to bring in Excel expense report templates and wrap them such that we can capture metadata and automatically route them to managers for approval. And the employee can also not only see different things they can get at things like show me all my time off requests and where they stand, or any IT requests that I've put in as well. So what we've seen here is, instead of the employees, clicking on a icon somewhere on their Windows screen to get to something, they can come to a central place, they can make requests, they can fill out forms, and they can actually see the status of requests and not have to worry, did somebody in HR get my email? And that's really what this is all about, making it easy for your people to do their jobs. So let's go in and actually just do a quick request. I'm going to do an HR request. We see that it actually opens up, has a simple form, and I'll go in and say, need to renew my work visa, an immigration request. I just put in my name. The request type is specific to HR, so this is an immigration request. And I also can go in and put in details like, when do I need this done? I need it by the end of the year. And please process as soon as possible. which is almost every request everybody wants. These requests also, you can insert and attach pictures, you can attach documents, and so on. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, and now we see that actually this request, we'll see in a minute, got routed over to HR. The other nice thing is in my email, I get a confirmation back that the request was taken by HR, and I will receive something that looks like this, and I can see that it's been handled by HR, and HR also gets a notification that a new request has come in. So everything within the applications here is actually integrated with Outlook. So if we see tasks here, if we see calendars, if we see contacts, and even notifications, we also get that in Outlook. Other things you can do is rooms and resources. You may use this in Outlook. If you do, we can just turn this off. But there is a central rooms and reservations and equipment reservations. Other things that you can do here are included, and this is with our employee self-service, our management services. So if I'm a manager and want to see all the approvals I have to do, I can see that here. I can even see the PTO available for these employees who are asking for vacation requests. I can do employee onboarding and offboarding is included in this. This is where you can actually bring on an employee and automatically assign a set of template tasks that will go out to facilities, payroll, IT, and so on, to make sure that there is a set of tasks assigned for onboarding as well. So again, the whole thing here is to make things easier to use with the 365 and have it automate some of those core business processes you use in your business. Now I'm going to go back to the intranet now. And let's take a look at some other areas. One of the areas we often see is, we saw HR there, and so let's go take a look at what things happen in HR. If you look over here, there's one other area. It's called department portals. And you can have detailed portals. Here's an IT portal, an HR portal, that provide for the employees a portal to get more information. So there was the central employee services for basic things, but if I need to get and drill down into more things, like I have questions about a job description, or I want to get a copy of the employee handbook here, I can get it from here. I can also make requests or see a knowledge base as well. So this employee portal within the HR department allows HR to make available different things without exposing some of the more confidential things that only HR can get at. And by the way, I'm signed on here as an administrator, so I see all this navigation. But if I was just an employee, this navigation actually goes away, and they just see the portal. And it keeps things simple that way. So let's go and see what a department looks like here. One of the departments here is HR, and if you remember, I put in a request to HR. If I go in here, this is where the HR staff portal resides. And this is where they can go in and basically do their HR business. And if we take a look at, there is a new service request. This was routed from that service portal, and I can actually go in, open this up, and assign it to somebody and track it. And one of the things that's always hard, whether you're a single HR person, department, or 3 or 4, is just to keep track of what work have you done here, and what things are you tracking. Well, this is a way to do that. You can go in and, for instance, here is different request categories here, and if I go to details and status, I can assign this, and I'll assign it to Linda Hatch, and I can even put a work log in here. Linda, be sure to get the latest forms from legal. And this allows Linda to actually go in and see information here, and there's a date and time stamp on this. And I'll hit save. So this has now been assigned to Linda. Linda gets an email, and she can go ahead and work on it. Throughout the different applications, each area has a service request area so that different departments can track different service requests. Okay, let's say Linda gets this. She will actually get an email. And in the email here, we can see she can actually get a link and go right to this request. She can see the details and status, any notes to her. She can even create other related tasks for others. So she might even create, for instance, something from legal that says, assigns to legal, please send me the latest visa papers. And so you can create tasks attached to this. Okay, what we are in now is, again, HR. And if we think about the different application components here, what I've done is I've shown you the intranet portal, some self-service capabilities, and we are now down in an HR staff site. And let's just take a look at what's included in a site. There's always a dashboard. And so here for HR, they can keep track of how many different requests they've had by status, by month. They can drill down on the different requests. They can keep track of employees and all the different information on each employee, everything from training to when their reviews are due and other things as well. So if we take a look at, for instance, Daryl Trimble here, we can see any information related to Daryl. And again, this is all only HR permissioned, and you can actually have permissions down to a tab. I can see the latest reviews, or when his reviews are due and the last one put in. I can see any related employee documents, what benefit plans are on, and so on. And you can add any other things here that you want. For instance, here's learning. Again, everything can be changed, every field can be modified, every view can be done. So every view here has many different things, like show me all the reviews due in the next 30 days, or show me everybody that reports to Daryl Trimble. And so you can do sorting, filtering, whatever you want. There's hiring, the ability to track requisitions, applicants, candidates, performance reviews, and even in performance reviews, there's workflows built around it. So if we take a look at a review here as an example, we can see what we can do with the different forms. So here is an employee review, and if I was a manager working on this, I could get instructions right here, do ratings, next period goals, and there's workflow that actually steps it through. Employer, the manager fills out his portion, and the employee fills out theirs. And it gets routed for approval. So all of that is part of what's built in and what SharePoint allows us to do. There's also full document management in HR. So if you need to develop HR policies, there's a full document library with capabilities to do things like check in, check out, have compliance, have approvals, and so on, are all part of the HR portal. And in fact, every portal has document management capabilities. So this is an overview of what a specific department staff portal looks like. And we also saw that there is an employee portal for each department as well, as we saw in the HR portal here. And they can manage this portal as well, manage the knowledge base and any documents they want to make available to employees through an employee portal. So let's just step one other area here. We also can do IT management. You may or may not have an IT person, or you may have an IT staff. This includes a full help desk, knowledge base, a portal, and notice it looks very much like the HR portal that employees could go into. We actually leverage Link to allow for live contact of an IT person, and they can share screens and everything right here. Surveys are provided, useful documents. Notice here's quick start guides for Office products, links to 365 tutorials, and I can see the status of any one of my cases at any time. To go back in as a IT staff member, I see the IT staff site where I can actually keep track of change requests, IT assets, and for instance, for an asset here, like this Dell Demo Workstation, I can keep track of who owns it, when it was bought, how many cases or tickets have been brought against it, the history of it, any change requests, documents, and even assign tasks to people related to this asset. So again, what we're doing is using the power of SharePoint to provide automation capabilities for a functional department. And then finally, if we take a look at it, there's other areas that may be cross-part departments. So here's a projects site with Project Tracker. And you can track multiple projects. So we have several projects here. I can say, show me just the projects for Acme Corporation. I could go in and see overdue tasks, project health. I could drill down into projects. So for instance, in this case with looking at just Acme, or it could be for just a department, doesn't have to be outside clients necessarily, I could go in on a project and say, show me details. Here's a status report. Here's task details. I can open up and assign tasks, and people can get at them. Time logs if you actually keep time. Related issues or project documents. And you can see projects in a number of views. Here's a Gantt view of that same 365 project. You can even create standard task templates for projects so that if you do a lot of projects where you're doing the same thing over and over again, you can actually create a new project and then assign a whole set of tasks in a standard mode automatically without having to create each one of them. And even for your team, there's a My Work page where a team member can go in and see all of the projects they're on, all the issues, project tasks across everything. So again, we're not trying to replace Project Server or anything like that, but if you have to track a number of projects and they're medium to small projects, and you're not building a skyscraper, this is a very effective tool. Again, leveraging SharePoint on your Office 365. We also have specialized areas like facilities. And this is basically taking something like managing facilities or equipment maintenance and that type of thing. And instead of service requests, we're doing work orders and being able to track different facilities and the different equipment that's in those facilities and have work orders against them. So for instance, here's the Bay Area campus. And if we take a look at this, we can go in and see, show me all documents related to them. This happens to be site plans and plans of the building, different assets that we're maintaining there, and what work orders have been applied against that facility. And as well as the other ones, you can see facilities can offer their own portal for employees to come into. And one of the things you notice here is a lot of these look the same. The look and feel is the same, and so on. So when an employee needs to go do something with a different department, whatever they're working with, they can do it in the same look and feel and the same type of layout. It makes it very easy for employees to start doing their job without having to go through and learn a completely new application and have a different sign-on. Finally, we have a couple other applications. If you have the option, obviously, of using Dynamics with Office 365, but if that's something that maybe you have a small sales force or that's maybe a little bit overkill, we do have a CRM, and you don't have to necessarily use Dynamics with it here. So this is things like being able to track marketing campaigns here, a marketing calendar or an accounts, or see your pipeline at any time. Your sales group can go in and track prospects and see sales dashboard, for instance. And the nice thing about this, again, it's 100% customizable, and you can change it any way that you want to track anything that you want. And again, we have something that we call super views, that for any, for instance, prospect that you're tracking, you can see everything that goes on with them. So here's a prospect I'm tracking. We can see it's an opportunity and the status and so on. We can go in and see information about it, any notes, what contacts are there, any communications that have been done, even assign tasks or have discussions, or see sales documents like proposals or appointments as well. There's even for sales staff a territory view. So they have their own dashboard where they can see just their accounts, what contacts they need to make today, what opportunities they're tracking, any tasks they're doing in one single dashboard in the CRM. And again, very easy to use and very easy to share information, track documents, and also workflows built in with notifications like for things with new leads coming in from your website, from email, or other things. So hopefully what you've seen here is a set of applications that are deployed in a consistent manner, and also what you'll see is they're very easy to change. Well, a lot of it's very much WYSIWYG. So for instance, if I have the right permissions, I can go in and add web parts or move things around on this page, or even have a different layout for this. So very easy to change things. If we're over in, for instance, IT or one of the other things, and I wanted to perhaps add a field to a case or a ticket here, I could do that by just going in and seeing the case list and adding a new column using standard SharePoint things. Also, and here's how you can add a column. You can say what type of column it is, for instance, text or lookup or currency or something like that. And you can even do things like create new views here. You can have alerts that says whenever somebody changes something on this list, send me an email. You can even do it at a item level. You can export to Excel. You can connect to Outlook. And you can even decide who you want to share things with. So everything, again, is very easy to change, very much like an Excel power user can make changes to Excel spreadsheets and do pivot tables and stuff. The same thing goes with this. So with that, what I'll do is let's go back to our PowerPoint, and we can take a look at taking some questions. And if you'd like to learn more, you can also at spmarketplace.com. And we have full videos and screenshots and everything else too if you want to share it with your team, or you can also arrange a live demo. And with that, I'll open it up to questions and or other things that we can discuss with you.
Thanks very much for that, Daryl. We actually had a couple questions come in, so I'll go ahead and go through those with you, and we can get those answered. So the first question that we had came in from Eileen. Eileen wants to know, if we already have Salesforce, can it be tied into SP Business Suite system?
Yes, it can. In fact, that's a very common thing we see. Typically where we see that happen is in a couple of places. You can, if you have Salesforce, you may not need, for instance, our CRM. So obviously you don't have to purchase that. But there are places that you can bring Salesforce information in. Maybe you have a customer service group. If you notice in our customer service area here, we have clients that we're actually supporting. And so here's customer management and customers. You can actually pull from Salesforce customer information into this customer list here. So one of the great things about SharePoint is that it is very easy to integrate different data sources. You do have to do mapping, and you have to say, this field maps to this and so on, but that is something that can be done.
Perfect, thanks for that. And then we have another question from Steve. Steve Holquist wants to know, what about links to web-based systems like JobBite and Salesforce?
Absolutely. In fact, on this the My Portal page, one of the things that you can do, what are actually behind these icons here, is hyperlinks. And you can actually go in and instead of perhaps linking to a time off sheet in ours or a timesheet, this is actually a very traditional one that we see linking to other systems. You can put a hyperlink to any system within this, and it doesn't have to be in SharePoint. And what it does, it'll actually open up a new tab, and that will be open, and they close that tab and they can go right back to the intranet portal. The same thing goes for on the front of the intranet portal where you saw the quick links.
All right. And so the next question we have is, what is the implementation process like, and how long does it take?
To actually install this as you see it, and by the way, what I demonstrated here is what it looks like out of the box. There's been nothing added. But to install the entire suite, we can actually get it on your system in literally about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Very simple install. But the other part of it is configuration and deployment. There may be things you want to change in it, and we have a very structured process where we actually use configuration worksheets and so on, where you can come back and tell us, for instance, we really don't need the job openings thing here, or we want to add a new library here on this, or we want to have, instead of, we're not really worldwide, so we don't need this web part, we'd like to have a weather web part there. So the configuration side of this, we actually have deployment and configuration as part of one package, and we give you structured worksheets to actually lead you through that. Now, to get, for instance, the entire suite deployed, we've had it as short as 30 days, and this is, actually getting it working and having it configured to exactly what each department needs. Or we've got some that take 6 months. It really depends on your time frame. And you don't even have to do the whole thing at once. We can install the whole thing and not show, for instance, CRM if you want to do that later, or projects if you want to implement that later. So a lot of times this is a phased implementation. A lot of times it starts with just the intranet and maybe employee services, or even a department. One thing I didn't mention is we have generic department portals that you can deploy as many of these as you want for any departments. They have their own service requests and so on. So as far as getting it on your system and getting it to what you see here, hour and a half. Getting it deployed and configured to exactly what your organization needs really depends on your time frame. Typically, if you do a worksheet, we can get that done in a day. For instance, for IT or HR, telling us what you want to use or not use in it. But the timing is, let's say you have to go work with the HR department. You have to sit down with them. You have to kind of show them, this is what's in this. What do you want to use? What don't you want to use? And you can even get down to, what fields do you want to track for an employee? So that's what takes time, is that part of the configuration. But as you see it out of the box, it's an hour and a half.
Perfect. Thanks. And then we have another question from Steve. Steve wants to know, what does pricing look like?
Pricing is, we used to do it on a subscription basis, but we found that, and we offered it two ways, subscription and permanent license. Everybody bought the permanent license because it was just a better deal. You can get the entire suite here of this, unlimited users, for less than $10,000 for the licenses. Individual things like the internet portal with self-service and all the red here you see is a $3,000 license. We add on deployment. Deployment is, for instance, for this about $895. You can purchase just a module, the IT module, for $1,600 with deployment of $495. So it depends whether you purchase a module or you purchase the entire suite. If you're looking at the entire suite with all deployment and even some customization hours and that type of thing, you may be looking at up to $15,000. But that's unlimited users, and you just pay a yearly 20% of the license, maintenance, and support fee.
And Steve followed up that question and wants to know, are there business case models available to help sell it to CFOs?
Yes, we actually have a number of those. One of the simplest business case models is if you have departments that are running a whole bunch of individual applications. So if you have an IT department, I suspect you may be running a help desk and you may be paying maintenance on that. An HR may have several applications for hiring, for doing different things. And from a hard dollar thing, if you add up all the maintenance fees that you would be paying in individual, what we call siloed products, you probably could justify this easily. That's a hard dollar way to do it. A softer dollar way to do it is to go in and say, okay, how much time are these people spending on things like service requests that are just coming in an email? And I would actually, if it was me, and I'm kind of aggressive, I'd turn it around on the CFO. Hey, CFO, HR works for you, right? How many service requests, how many requests from employees do they field a month? Can you tell me that? Because they can't. So if you have to add an employee, how do you know if you need a new employee? How do you know that the workload's large enough for that? So there's two aspects to it. There's the core replacing some applications that you have out there. There is can the department work more their productivity be better, and visibility and quantitative analysis to management. And then the third thing is employee productivity. How much time across the board are employees spending making requests to HR, or putting in different help desk tickets, or looking for their sign-on book to do things? So from soft all the way through to hard quantitative things, what we find that businesses, especially CFOs, when they see this, sometimes it's 48 hours before we get an order. That's it. I mean, it is something that is kind of a common sense business approach of going from the chaos side of it to this. And this affects specifically, how many things here fall under the CFO? A lot. And so what it really is it gives the capability for the CFO to start putting in some better services for employees from his service departments that he is over.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Daryl. And then we have one last question. This is relating back to a question from Eileen again. What is the level of knowledge that users would need to use this application, and how does that relate, to IT teams and general users as well?
Excellent question. In fact, that's one of the most important things that relates to the success of this deployment. End users just need to know how to use basic SharePoint. And we actually have on our site, under resources, a training page. And so there actually is a number of videos out there, especially from Microsoft, on basic use of SharePoint. And that may be a half-hour video for a user to be introduced to it. The one that's more important is maybe somebody in IT, or somebody that is given responsibility for being the administrator of these applications. That person needs to be more of a SharePoint power user. It's not a SharePoint administrator, and it's not a SharePoint developer. It's somebody that knows how to create SharePoint libraries, how to do SharePoint lists, how to use a team site in SharePoint. And what that is, that's about 3 to 4 hours of video training. We actually have some very specific recommendations on our website for what training is needed for this. Once they get that training, all of a sudden you'll find that they go, wow, there's other things we can do with this that I didn't even know about, but now that I know SharePoint, I can take advantage of it. It's kind of like Excel. Again, I keep coming back to that. You've got people that use Excel that just use it to look at things and some basic things and know how to put, numbers in cells and stuff like that. And then you've got the Excel power users that actually know how to do pivot tables and charts and so on. That's the two levels that you're looking at with SharePoint as well.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. And it looks like we're kind of coming up on our time here. So, and that was the last question that we have. We'll be going ahead and following up with an email to everyone after the webinar. We'll actually be posting a recording of this webinar, so you can go back and review anything that you might have more questions on, and we'll be in contact with you all soon. We appreciate you showing up, and thanks to everyone.
Thank you.